All right, thank you. Good evening. We'll call to order the meeting for June 11th of the Planning and Zoning Commission and Local Planning Agency. We'll start off with the invocation and a pledge. And Madam Vice Chair, can I have you lead us in the pledge today?
Absolutely.
All right. Please rise. Heavenly Father, as we come here tonight, we ask your blessing on our meeting. We ask a blessing on all of our citizens as they enjoy their summer vacation with the kids out of school. Keep them all safe. Let them all come back refreshed. As always, we ask a blessing on our first responders. Keep them safe as they keep us safe. And our military, wherever they are in the world, Lord, keep them safe and bring them home to us. We ask all of this in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, we'll ask for a call of the roll.
Chair Keller,
Present.
Vice Chair Williams,
present.
Member Mellon,
Present.
Member Wunderlich.
Present.
We have a quorum.
All right. And just so you know, we are one member short. We did have one member resign. So right now, if you know of anybody who's interested in being on, please have them get in touch with the clerk's office so they can put in a resume there and like to fill the vacancy. Okay, consent agenda. We need a motion for the May 14th meeting. So if I can get a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes as written for the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on May 4th, 2019.
All right. And can I get a second for that?
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion by Vice Chair Williams, a second by Member Wunderlich. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Carries. All right. We have no old business, so we'll move right into the new business. First thing is the downtown and 429 overlays. CRA Administrator Corliss, they have it here as your first. So you look sort of surprised, like you were expecting to be second. Unless is my notes backwards?
No, the agenda does have the downtown and 429 overlay first and the Crown Point PUD second. However, the backup is just the opposite. So
Yeah.
if the chair would like, we could switch.
Yeah, I was gonna say we could switch it around because you definitely look like the deer in the headlights when I go into there. Okay, Lynn.
Yes, Chair Carlin, that was actually a recommendation by City Planner Rumor as related at kind of the last minute we switched because we do have representatives that are from Orange County Public Schools, so we felt they would like to go ahead and kind of shift that forward as my understanding.
All right. Okay.
Appeal into the second part?
I'm sorry?
So then we'll go before and it's based on your...
Yeah, we'll let that go first since we have the members there and yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, not a problem.
All right. Okay.
I would be ready to go.
So so let's try that again. Let's go with number B. We'll go with the Ocoee Crown Point PUD public hearing and zoning manager. And how do you pronounce your last name? Because I'm going to destroy it.
Gajadar.
Gajiar?
Gajadar.
Gajadar. Okay, I came close to that. Okay, thank you.
All right, good evening, Chairman Keller and Commission. The item I'll be discussing tonight is the approval of a major amendment to the Ocoee Crown Point PUD. This will consist of changing the land use from multiple tracts in the PUD. So a quick overview of the PUD itself. It's a joint venture between OCPS and Ocoee that was approved in 2003. The PUD itself is located north or northwest side of the city. It's approximately 360 acres in size and is envisioned for a multi-use combination of public, residential, office, and commercial use in a high-quality traditional neighborhood development environment. Currently, the PUD consists of developments such as the Ocoee High School, a proposed elementary school. Both are owned by OCPS, as well as the Preserve at Crown Point subdivision that's currently under construction right now. The specific parcel within the PUD is currently vacant and consists of 37.46 acres approximately. The parcel is located northwest of Fuller's Cross Road and 429. As you can see right here. West of Ocoee Popka Road, right here, and south of the West Orange Trail here, as well as the Ocoee Crown Point Parkway. Here is an aerial view of the actual parcel. This is where the proposed elementary would go, the preserve here, I believe, and Ocoee High School. Actually, I'm mistaken, sorry, the preserve is right here. So the parcel consists of 5 tracts of land. As you can see right here, this is the PUD layout. Those tracts are 7A and 7B, which is currently designated as workforce education. Tract 13, which is currently bus depot / townhomes. 34, which is currently designated as a right-of-way. And 41, which is designated as stormwater drainage. This is the proposed or amended PUD layout. So basically, the substantial amendment would consist of changing the land use for all 5 of those tracts from what it is, which I just discussed, to workforce education / townhomes. So they'll all take on the workforce education and townhomes. Right here is a table that shows the current land use, as I just discussed. And this would be the proposed land use if approved. So our DRC, our Development Review Committee, did approve and found that it was consistent with the city regulations and intent for the sale of the land. And staff also recommends approval of the amendment. And with that, that's your approval. And we also have representatives from OCPS here, if there are any questions.
And before we open the public hearing, does anybody from OCPS want to speak?
Sure. This one or that one, doesn't matter? Okay.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Chris Wilson, and I'm with the law firm Marchena and Graham, representing Orange County Public Schools. We thank you for your time this evening. We know that you're volunteering it, and good luck with filling your last spot. So we have tonight the Senior Director of Planning and Construction, Mr. Faz Ali is here. We have a representative from Planning, OCPS Planning, which is Jamie Berger, and we have Rick Baldacchi from AvCon, who's the engineer. So this presentation is a little duplicative. I guess we were going back and forth on how do I go forward. That goes forward, okay. So again, we'll go relatively quickly. The same thing. It's substantial amendment. Bus depot is what was planned here, and we're pushing it over to a work for all workforce education or townhomes, one or the other. The same table that he had showed you. And I guess I'd like to also point out, so we have tomorrow morning, they're going to issue the notice to proceed to the architect and the engineer to construct the workforce education. So I mean, that is underway and currently budgeted and going to start the design and engineering process tomorrow. And if I could have Rick come up briefly, and I think this just helps a little bit with some of the changes in the access, and he'll be able to explain a little better than I.
Thank you, Chris. I'm Rick Baldacchi with AvCon, 5555 East Michigan Street, Orlando. What I tried to do here was just simplify or highlight some of the more significant changes as opposed to the land use plan, which had all the little clouds and notes. So there were the 2 major things that we thought we wanted to try to modify a little bit. The access, I guess off of Ocoee Popka, if we were to access the site on the little cul-de-sac, we would have to come in on that road that runs kind of, southeast to northwest, cross the trail and turn left and cross the trail again to get into the cul-de-sac. And we thought that one intersection where the trail crossing occurred close to the main roadway was not desirable. The other item is the pond. We know we still have to build probably about the same amount of pond, and that pond also will serve parcel, I think it's 6C or D up there in the corner, that's owned by the city of Ocoee. We just wanted some flexibility as the architect and engineer worked through the design to move that around on the site, either for aesthetic purposes or for more functionality from a stormwater. So we basically are requesting to kind of incorporate that into the larger parcel, and note that we'll still provide that same stormwater. So if you flip to the next slide, that shows the pond gone, but there's a note on the land use plan to incorporate it in the larger parcel. And then you can see on the north part, we're proposing a different access point. We did check the roadway under the 429. There's room for a left turn lane underneath the bridge. And then we're showing building a portion of the stub out off of, East Crown Point Road.
Yeah.
So those are the proposed access points to the site that we are proposing as part of the land use plan. We did a comparison of the trip generation. Which the ITE code does not have bus depots and doesn't really have a good code for technical colleges, so we used the data we had. So we took the counts we had done at the Pine Hills bus depot that OCPS owns, which is similar to what they would have built here in that scenario. So those trips are up at the top. And then we took Orlando, we just did a project at the Technical College in downtown Orlando. So we took the trips from that project and showed those as AM and PM peak. And if you'll notice, the inclusion of a technical college versus a bus depot actually shows a future reduction in the amount of additional trips for the development. So we think this is also a positive thing for the city and those roadways, and that it will reduce the congestion on those roads. What's left? Turn it back to Chris.
Thanks. So I guess in closing, we concur with staff's recommendation. The school board and Ocoee have had a great relationship on this project. The high school's there, elementary school will be coming. This technical school is one more step in that relationship. So we concur with staff, and we're available for any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any questions at this time?
Yes,
Vice Chair.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question. I guess it's either for our zoning manager or the OCPS representatives, and that is, it currently, well, I guess I'm trying to better understand. I know that it's going to be a trip reduction based on what was previously planned, but I'm also concerned because as of right now, in real daytime, that area gets very, very congested. So my question is, in terms of hours of operation and coordination of timing, how is that going to work with the technical school and the high school there? Anybody can?
Yeah, one of the things that is an advantage, I believe, of the technical college is their schedule.
Okay.
If you look at the high school, either high school, middle school, elementary school, they have very intense peaks, right? Where everyone comes at the same time and goes home at the same time. Bus depots are similar. They actually have 4 peaks because people come and take the buses. Is that me? Anyway, people come, the drivers come in, take the buses, go out and come back, and then they do it again in the afternoon. So there's actually 4 peaks. The technical colleges tend to be more spread out because it's more conducive to like a college curriculum. So the courses, the classes are at different times. There's evening classes. Some of the students that come are high school students, and those are typically bussed over. So you get them coming, in one instead of a whole series of automobiles. So that's why you actually see the numbers for the technical college at peak hour being less. Is it just, it's more spread out.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions?
I do have a couple. So you said tomorrow you'll be starting the architectural design. Do you have an idea of when you're looking to break ground for this?
January 2020. 2021? 2021.
Okay. Just curious, I was just curious, 'cause as I know I remember we had the architectural design for the middle school that was going to be trying to think what road that is now, off of McCormick there. That we went all through the design and everything and approving it, and then it never got built. So I just wanted to make sure this one was in the plans for being built as well as just designing at this point.
As far as it is today, it is in the plans for design, engineering, and construction with breaking ground. Of course, subject to a,
Yeah, but what I mean is it's in your 5-year plan and you've got money for it at this point.
yes,
I guess is the
I'm
question
getting
that
the
I'm
nod
asking.
from Mr. Ali
Okay.
that is the case.
All right.
And barring some,
Yeah.
crazy change in budgets or the economy, I assume.
Okay, and then my question is gonna be on the trips as well, but, and I take it I know it's gonna be a college, but there will be some high school students, and are those just local, or who comes in, what high schools will this feed if there's high school students coming in? I mean, how many buses are we looking at realistically?
Saying 3 to 4.
Okay.
I mean, I'm assuming it would be available to,
Well, I'm assuming you're not going to have anybody from university coming over, from University High School coming over, but I would expect that probably Apopka and Ocoee and West Orange, Wekiva would be the ones
I would
coming.
assume that would be the case.
Okay. All right. I don't have any other additional questions, so at this point, let me open it up, the public hearing there, to the public. Are there any questions from anyone in the audience? Yep. Yeah, come on up, and yeah, we'll need you to fill out a form afterwards, but come on up and give us your name and address, and
So sorry, my name's Corey Miller. I live in the preserve at Crown Point. I just heard about this today, so I'm totally unprepared to know anything about this development. Just wanted to give you my opinion as a resident. Of course, as a resident, I'd love for that all to stay green area, but obviously, if this were the choice of the lesser of two evils, I did not even know that a bus depot was scheduled for that property.
Yeah.
I think that that's a totally inappropriate area for a bus depot to go in. That really needs to be more in a metropolitan area, more of a commercial, an industrial area, I think, if you've got buses going in and out. And that is a residential area. I just paid nearly $500,000 for a home, and so I would not want a bus depot going in next to me. I do like if you do choose to have the college go in there, I do like the second route coming in so that there's no, so that they don't use the roundabout. We were only living there 4 months before my daughter was T-boned in that roundabout because it is a mess. So that second entrance that does not use the roundabout would be better if they did go that route with the college. That's just my opinion. Okay, thank you.
all right, thank you. And then, like I said, the only thing is there should be some forms on the back, so if you don't mind, please just fill that out so they can get your name and address correct in the minutes there. All right, anybody else? All right, hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing, bring it back up to the dais. Any other questions? Yes?
Now, real quick, I'm going to have to abstain from any votes or comments on this for the conflict of interest with my employer.
Okay, so noted. All right, and that too, I'm sure they already told you there's a form you'll need to.
It's already filled out.
Yeah, okay, it's already filled out, good. All right, so having that, for this, I believe we only need one motion. is necessary. So can I have a motion to approve the substantial amendment of the Ocoee Crown Point PUD?
So, Mr. Chair, I would like to, I so move that we recommend the approval of the substantial amendment to the Crown Point PUD land use plan for tracts of land owned by Orange County Public Schools and subject to completion of staff comments.
All right, and is there a second?
I will second that.
All right, so we have a motion made by Vice Chair Williams. We have a second by Member Wunderlich. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, carries. Very good. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you. All right, and now let's flip it back to to item A, and we'll go with the downtown and 429 overlay and CRA Administrator Corliss.
Good evening, and for the record, I am Ginger Corliss, the Deputy Director of Development Services, and I'm here tonight to really discuss the downtown and State Road 429 overlay areas as it relates to the Land Development Code, and then we'll be speaking to you tonight. Okay. This mouse always, I have to stretch forever to get to this before. Okay. What we actually wanted to be able to do. I kind of pulled in my master plans for the downtown as well as the State Road 429. These are land design plans. You see a lot of stickers on them. Because we as staff use these documents practically daily in development services, whether it's talking to a potential investor coming into the area, a new property, or actually making sure that the development that people want to do is in compliance with the basic vision that was set forth by the City of Ocoee Commission. So both of these documents were adopted and approved by the City Commission from the standpoint of the master plan process. They're referenced in the comprehensive plan. Now, only the State Road 429 in design plans was actually incorporated to Land Development Code by ordinance, of course, and it was done more in a general format. So what we're trying to do, and you can, if you've ever had a long night you couldn't sleep and wanted something from that was very text heavy, please look at the current City of Ocoee Land Development Code, as are many of the land development codes across the nation. But what we're seeing from a planning perspective is trying to make the Land Development Code not just a regulatory document, but a user-friendly document for several reasons. One, to be able to give quick glances that we have from the standpoint of development standards is easy for not just us as staff, but more importantly, by the general public and of course our developers. It also reduces, and you'll be hearing about this in a few minutes, the issue about every time we update something, the referencing and updates with the Land Development Code. So we're trying to really kind of pull everything together. So staff was again working, and what you're going to be hearing tonight is presenting a user-friendly format to the Land Development Code specifically as it relates to Article 5 and 6. Components to that. So we want to make it more easy to read, a table and graphic format. So when staff started going down this road to take the information that was contained within the overlay areas, we did ask and actually are working very closely with Tara Salmari. We commissioned her to assist us with this process. She's with Plan Active Studio. I have known Tara for over 20 years, having the pleasure to work with her on a number of similar projects throughout the state. As actually she worked for me at one time too, so with that component. So I'm actually asked Tara to come up here and she's going to take you through what we're doing as we're moving forward. And I'm going to move this back towards you. You can state your name and address.
Good evening. My name's Tara Salmari. I'm with Plan Active Studio. Ooh, some feedback, isn't it?
Maybe you're out.
Was I a little loud or? Okay. Let me see if I can work this with my left hand. Can I move it?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, if I do the left, that would be. So tonight, what I really want to do is just go over the overviews of State Road 429 and the Downtown Master Plan. I'm assuming that everybody on the board participated and was part of both of those plans. This is just a little quick refresher. The 429 overlay was developed to create high character development, providing opportunities for multimodal options, as well as increasing connectivity, and then moving to having something more of a strong sense of place. And out of those overlay areas, as you remember, there were sub areas in the character plans. It's a lot of interesting planning language to know, but so there's an overlay, an entire area, and in those districts was the interchange, gateway, and business districts. For the downtown overlay, similar on the mixed use, but the downtown had the privilege of already having a lot of connected streets, and it was really ripe for how do you reinvest in that. And you had a ton of community engagement and involvement, which then born the districts that came through that, which are the districts that are McGuire, Silver Star, Downtown Core, Downtown Neighborhood. And Downtown General, you'll see in the code, is a new district that is, the plan itself encompassed a lot of area, but then some of the downtown, the entrances into downtown were ignored. So while we started evaluating the master plans and we're getting ready to really fine tune and codify, how do you then take advantage of some other areas that don't necessarily need to have the same standards but should be recognized as part of the area. I was involved with 429. I came in at the last minute to help the city create the standards, because the plans that have been done, they're vision based, but they did have a lot of standards in them. So when I was asked to come back, I evaluated both plans, did spreadsheets and analysis of what standards are being provided in each document. Are they similar or are they different? 90% of most of the standards in both documents were almost exactly the same. So that's why when we were talking about implementation, the books are beautiful. It does sell a lot of things with the community, but when you're trying to do site development and planning, it's very problematic to use the books, and you'll see that in 429 it references the manuals, but sometimes the manuals were permissive, or it was, well, we encourage you, or if you're able to. And I see your attorney nodding her head, and that makes things very challenging in lots of ways. From the development community, it's challenging. For staff, it's challenging. When we decided that the best way moving forward was to actually integrate into your code, the next step was to say, okay, how can we make this user-friendly? Because there has been a dream in the planning department. I've worked on and off for Ocoee for 7 years, but there's been a big dream of us doing a new zoning code. And that takes time and money. And so this is kind of the very first opening of the door to say, if we really could throw out the code, how would we want it? So what you'll see is we tried to seamlessly, I mean, in some ways you don't need to throw out things that aren't broken either, but how can you enhance those? So as you probably know, Article 5 houses most of your land use and density regulations, which that gives the land the entitlements to develop. That's where your dimensional standards are. That's where your purpose for the districts are. And then Article 6 focuses on design and performance standards, but through time, other standards have been put in there that hopefully down the road will be removed so that you'll have a cleaner document. The overlay organization is to, I think in the master plan, and multiple terms were used, but what we came up with is that State Road 429 is the overlay area, and in the overlay area you have districts. I mean, that's just a clean way of not keep making things so complicated. That's, if it sounds easy, that's what the goal was, to make it easy. So you'll see in the packet before you, it even starts at page 2. Each district, and I just have one cut sheet that is here, but I like to refer to those as cut sheets. You'll see that it all includes, every one of them will have a purpose. It references uses. Well, the whole goal is this cut sheet, and there's one that's on page 2. It should do your purpose. It should point you where your use standards are. It has all your lot standards, your permitted building types, and then the goal is that when somebody comes in and they know they're in the district, that they can actually look at the sheet and see where they need to go for either all the information or the balance of the information. So it's summarized in a way that I've done throughout the state, and it seems to work pretty well. So that's how the cut sheet is, and every single district has all of those: the purpose, use, lot standards, building types, and then the other standards, which we might add. But that way, ideally, in the perfect world, you could link to the section and it would bring you to it. So that's what we're setting up, is that when you're in that you can actually just go to that standard, so that there isn't so much frustration that you're going to see in the development community. And then also your staff already knows a lot of this, but it just helps to get everybody using the same language and doing that. The only reason why I'm highlighting the building types is I know that's a really new way of regulating. Both of these master plans in the downtown, as well as the 429, they both talked about building typologies. So I evaluated all of the building typologies and then added those. And then this is just in your, I think it starts at page 11, and that's kind of the user-friendly of what's permitted. And this is not use, it is building typology. So for example, you could have a house in the downtown core, but it could be an office use, but the building itself would look like a house. So does that make sense? So it's really more of the character versus the use. And that way, what we've seen is people understand those terms better than, okay, if you had an eighth of an acre of land or a small lot, it's really easy to use one of these building typologies, but what starts making things a little bit more complicated is when you get to an acre or something more that requires multiple buildings, and how are they assembled? So these building typologies then will provide that guidance for you. And like I said, these were in both of your master plans. I did not make any changes to, I didn't add any new building types, and then the page 12, it actually has what the minimum lot widths are and the minimum unit size it applied, and then they had a required facade, and the required facade is the design and performance standards, which then lead you to your Article 6. And in Article 6, those design standards are general, and you'll see those kind of pick up on 13. You'll see an image, and again, these were all from the master plan. None of the images have changed, none of the standards have changed, but they use the same. If they didn't use the illustration, they use the same standards sometimes. So we would just want to be consistent so that people aren't, at the end of the day, they were using the exact same standards. So instead of having to say 429 gets to do this, why be repetitive? Just put it in so that everybody uses it. The other interesting kind of new way that the master plan also provided, both sets of the master plans provided streetscapes. We are still going to reference the street designs in the master plans, because to codify the public ways and then the potential right-of-ways, can be a little bit more of a problem because you don't want to say that that's what's going to happen if it's somebody else's property. So we're referencing the master plan for the street design. However, the public frontage requirements, which is the curb to the property line, is being regulated by what we'll call the public frontage requirement, which this illustration shows that. Most people, when you look from the curb to a property line, just see a sidewalk parking area. But in this standard, there's really three ways that things are being regulated, how the parking is being regulated, the planting zone. Instead of just saying a lot of current standards, just say you have a sidewalk and then you can plant a tree, but then there's not enough for both. So this, in the code, it will say that there's a planting zone and then there's a walk zone, which is what needs to be free and clear. So that's a new, I kind of picked some things out that I knew, or new terminology, just so that we could have a level of comfort. And again, these are not, they were already adopted in your master plan, but I just think that those are helpful to understand. There's a lot of different general standards that they addressed. Outdoor storage, loading and service areas, it's almost exactly the way you've regulated anyway. So that's just going into that. A little bit more on building design and materials, where entrances should be, how you have pedestrian access. Some parking ratios have changed to make them a little bit more general in nature because of the mixed use. There are two sections that are being updated. One is the signs and one is the landscape. Ginger will touch on that in just a few minutes. The last kind of interesting aspects of the master plan was the introduction of open space. Right now, the current code does not really have community open space, and when you're having urban style development, you didn't have open space that would kind of supplement and complement an urban place. So in those master plans, they introduced greens and plazas and all the new kind of, it's not new anymore, but it is new for Ocoee and in the code. So those would have been very problematic the way they've been set up in the master plan. But again, just bringing those, they're national benchmarks, so they're not anything that's different. Architectural style in both plans, they talked about in a lot of detail about what architectural styles are. I brought everything in, and it doesn't require this architectural style to occur. What it does say is that if you are doing Main Street, these are the standards that you should comply with. It's not saying you have to do it. So you're giving your applicants and your property owners a lot of flexibility in what kind of design that they want. But if they brought forth, let's say, Florida vernacular, and they had multiple buildings and they had multiple architectural styles, staff would have the opportunity to tell them that they had to stick with one style instead of, oh, I want to have my awnings from this style and this style. So it's very clear that once you've picked your style, here's your parameters. And then I'll turn it back over to Ginger.
A couple of points you probably saw in the draft, and that had to be the table 3.2, which is on page 10, which is the permitted uses by sub-district. That table is currently under development. We will be bringing that back to you. Actually, step up a second. The intent tonight is, following your action, we have not scheduled or do plan to schedule taking this to the commission, city commission, until late summer or early fall for the final adoption from the standpoint of the city commission. There are things that we are working on that are referenced in this document that we will be bringing back to you from that standpoint. And they basically are these three elements, 3.2, which is the permitted use by sub-district. We will have that shortly. And Article 6, Section 616, as Tara mentioned, there we are referencing the sign design basically for Article 8. We're in the process of updating that entire article. That will be, of course, brought back before the P&Z, as well as the 16.9 we referenced landscape and buffers. Before, for each different area, we would speak to landscape requirements or buffers that may adhere to the overlay areas or special district throughout. What we're finding, and then we're referencing back to a general, what we're trying to do is we're creating a new article for landscape that basically has the overall, and then each of the districts that may have additional standards in landscape will be placed in that section. That way, if we make a change, it's going to be only within that article, and we don't have to, as long as we're referencing it, it should tie back. Because one of the goals of this, as I said earlier, is to eliminate some of that cross-referencing issues we have when we don't catch something, and that happens. You know, we're all human with that. So these are 3 things that are under development that we're working on through the summer. As relates to recommendations, the Development Review Committee, they met today, they reviewed it, they had time to review it. They recommended approval of the document to move forward into the amendment process. And staff is recommending that tonight we're recommending that you recommend approval of the amendment to the Ocoee Land Development Code, implementing zoning criteria for the downtown overlay and State Road 429 overlay areas. And with that,
All right, so we'll bring it back for questions.
I got a few. I noticed on like page 2, where we're talking about front yard setbacks and side yard setbacks, and you have the minimum set at 0. And I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought the city of Ocoee ordinances already had a minimum front setback, and these are showing it as 0, and I thought it was 15 feet. Also, the maximum is 15 feet on the sheet, but it shows the minimum being 0.
That's correct. Yep, it's correct. Did you want me to, yes,
I thought
it
we
is.
had a minimum
And
front setback.
you do.
And then the maximum can.
You actually do. And so moving forward, these standards, because of the overlay, will wipe out what your existing standards are for those particular districts.
But this is only district, we don't, somebody from another district coming in,
Correct.
oh, they're given a 0-foot setback.
Correct.
Or a 5-foot setback or a.
Yes,
easement.
and you'll see some will go into a 0, and let's see, business center district is 5. Then you have McGuire is 35. So it ranged, and that's how the master plans identified those. I didn't make any changes to what had been originally
Okay,
recommended.
good. There was another sheet here, bear with me 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
Is it 11 that you're looking at?
Goes to 11.
If I'm-
Yes, page 12 would be the next one. It talks
yes.
about house, building container, 1 primary residence, may also accommodate commercial use. It has a minimum size, unit size, and it shows NA. And I know that, or correct me if I'm wrong, I thought the minimum new home size in Ocoee was 1,700 feet, 1,800 feet. So are
It
we
could
just
be.
at these areas in this district, we're just gonna not give them a minimum square footage for the new homes?
That's how the master plan had it. If that's something that the planning commission is not comfortable with, that's, all I can say is that's how it was presented with your master plans.
if I could
Yeah.
speak to that a little bit. Some of the intention when you're working with the overlay areas and the sub-districts is that you do want to have some flexibility because the majority of these areas are also mixed use. So those are some of the areas when we're saying they're not applicable, those are things that we will work with based on the form. And of course, their site is going to dictate the form and the size and the criteria from that standpoint. So it's a little bit different when you have these form types of development standards for specific districts than what may be outside.
Thank you very much.
Additional questions? I've got some, and they're probably on the cut sheets being more technical than anything else there.
Okay.
with the gateway, I noticed that you, on the gateway district, I noticed you have townhouses.
I'm sorry, excuse me, I just need to get to the page.
Yeah,
Your page three?
Yeah.
Okay.
I noticed you have townhouses and tuck under townhouses, but you do not have duplexes. Is there a reason you don't want duplexes in there, or?
So I'm going to already apologize because it seems like I'm a broken record. I stayed completely true to the master plans that were adopted. If that is something that you have a recommendation to make a change to that master plan, that's the only reason why those specific building types were identified in the master plans.
If I can add a little clarification, when we're going through the master planning process, when we spoke of the building types that we were desired, the duplex was not a desired building form as it relates to these districts from the standpoint of what we're trying from the density, the intensity, whereas a townhome, because it's more of a vertical nature and the type of character is a little bit different, and that was actually a discussion item during the master planning process. But Tara's correct, she literally, and that's what Steve's saying, we wanted to stay true to what was adopted and pulling those into the development standards, but that gives you a little background on the duplex for these districts.
Yeah.
Plus that also, at least it gets it in the minutes, so if, when you're looking at it over the summer, things that can also be looked at, maybe if you do decide you want to change. The other one was the Silver Star Corridor, because I noticed you had single-family, uses
Okay.
range
I
from single-family
apologize.
residential.
I just need to get to that.
That was number 6. Sorry, page 6.
Okay.
The Silver Star, uses
Yeah.
range from single-family residential, but then you don't have houses in there. So I don't know if that's more that we're not looking at putting houses in there, just townhomes, but I guess whenever I look at a house, I immediately think when I think of single-family residential, I think of a house over a townhouse, but.
Yeah, I would agree. The clarification on the purpose of the district should say attached, single-family residential. That would be more consistent with that.
And let's see, page 8, the downtown neighborhood. And this one I don't know, because I really didn't see anything that said somewhat commercial there or anything, but is this an area, and I guess this is just my own thinking, is this an area where we really don't want restaurants in the downtown neighborhood district, or is that something that we could have a limited commercial that would include restaurants, and can we limit commercial that way?
Yes. And I think the uses, so I'll just remind you that the permitted building types, house, duplex, and townhouse, are just a building. It's not a use, and we're in the midst of developing the use table, and I believe that's something that staff is looking at, is to allow that type of use in those building types.
Yeah, because it just seemed to me that
Yeah, I think it actually
probably
called
want some
it-
sort of commercial building type in there if I'm going to allow a restaurant, but I don't want to narrow it too much.
Chair Keller, we are actually, staff's looking at specifically, for example, the Bluebird Corridor, the south of downtown core. Those areas are some of the areas that we're looking at. We still have to recognize the form that is surrounding those lots fronting the existing buildings, are actually majority are residents that are fronting such an area. So hence, it goes back to one of the things we first said, that we're looking at form versus use in many cases, so that we may have a use that can be consistent with the surrounding residential element based on that. But we are looking at that, and that'll be brought back to you on the use table.
And finally, and I'm not sure what page it was on, but when we talked about outdoor dining, and they wanted to use removable barriers. I guess I just wonder about removable barriers for the outside dining in front of the location. um, I know it said you couldn't use chain link and a few other things, but
It's page 18 for
Thank
your
you.
reference.
Some of that stuff can look pretty chintzy there when you go with removable stuff, or I guess just my own. I would almost like to see if you're going to put something there, put something a little more permanent, and then if the restaurant goes out of business or something, and we determine that we don't want that area cordoned off anymore, then maybe remove that. But
We can definitely look at that. The removable barrier allows the city some flexibility because the outdoor seating is actually within the right-of-way, and that would be a permit. So if you're asking a private person to put a permanent structure in your right-of-way, it can be a little bit of a problem, but you'll just have to defer to the attorney or to see if we'd have to come up with some legal structure for that.
yeah, because I guess I'm seeing if you got tables out there, you're already interfering with the right-of-way, if you will. And I'd much rather have the outside seating. So something that I guess when we look at, if you're going to have the outside seating, it just seems to me that, okay, so you can take the barrier down at night or something like that, and it's going to give you another 6 inches of walking space or something like that. I'd almost just as soon see it something that looks good and is permanent, as opposed to, because I have big dogs. My dog comes in there and leans against your temporary barrier. It's probably going to go over. I mean, you know, so it's one of those things that something that would be a little more sturdy, a little bit more decorative. I think since you're already in the right of way, I think that might be a little bit better. Any other questions?
Just comments, if you don't mind. So first of all, I appreciate the mammoth task that it took to go from that to this. And then, but my concern and maybe input would be that as we are moving as a community away from use and into form, that we create some kind of narrative to help the neighborhood, help the community move in that direction. Because I think, you know, by the time this does get to the city council, I'm hoping there'll be a packed audience and there'll be people with lots of questions and excited to see what's to come. But I think that we have to help kind of tell the story a little bit. So I don't know if we do that, how you do that in a land development code-ish language, but it would be great to be able to say, okay, this is where we're moving from this use to form and how we, so that anyone reading it can understand.
Yeah, and I'm going to be, so we're not moving from use to form.
Well,
so just so that we're clear, you do not have the use table, but this will be regulated for use.
Okay.
And you will have a use table, and every district is going to have permitted and prohibited uses.
Okay.
So moving forward, I think the only radical difference is that you're introducing building typologies as a part of your design and scale rather than dictating the use. Like if you look, for example, in downtown Orlando, if you know Thornton Park area, and you see kind of the cute cottage homes, but it's a coffee house, that's really the intent, is to kind of drive that sort of design through a building type, but still maintaining, this is in Florida, you do not ever wipe use out. So it's not going to be secondary at all. It's really, and even Winter Garden has, I did an art overlay district for them in some of their area that they want to introduce more uses into their downtown, the next street over, but they want the character to still resemble a neighborhood. And that's the only real difference there.
Okay. Well,
But we can
thank
describe
you
that,
for-
absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna say, thank you for clarifying, but I think my main point is that if we gotta help tell the story,
For sure.
if we can in some way, so that.
We can do a how-to. I've done that
yeah.
in plenty of other cities, as well as I've done this is how you, it's kind of like the bill, you know,
Yeah.
the cartoon thing that you'll say step 1, step 2, this is how you do that.
And
So
we-
that we're all working from the same framework, because it did,
Exactly.
even, I mean, because my planning's rusty, definitely
Sure.
rusty, but, it took a little bit to go, okay, wait a minute, what are we doing? You know, so that was my only point.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's helpful. It's a really nice how-to of how you're shifting. The goal is that most people will, my goal when I create standards like this is that I remove the intimidation factor of doing code.
Exactly.
So the cut sheet itself should really give somebody a really good idea of all the standards. I mean, I met with somebody on a personal basis that she was trying to open up a business, and every time she went to the permit office, she got told another section, not here in this city, but somewhere else. And she kept going, well, how do I mean, this is like a treasure hunt. How do I find it? So that's the goal is, and if we haven't accomplished that, we need to.
Yeah.
So,
And I'd like to add on that, staff has discussed after, because we kind of call them cut sheets, they're easy to be able to put into a document that addresses the district. So if somebody's being interested in the 429 in downtown, it can specifically address that, so it becomes a user-friendly document. Of course, always telling them that they have to go through the official land development code.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons too that we went to this format, was making it user-friendly, not just from the standpoint of going through the code, but also as an education information tool.
Yeah.
Additional comments or questions? All right, this is a public hearing, so this time we'll open the public hearing. If there's anyone here that would like to speak to it, come on down. Yeah, again, same thing, please fill out one of those forms if you haven't already.
I did.
Okay, good. And just give us your name and address, and go ahead.
Hi, I'm Dana Fassett. My address is 13217 Shore Drive, Winter Garden, Florida, 34787. And I think I came possibly on the most perfect night to hear you two talk. I am a real estate broker. I have a listing next door to the Ocoee Cemetery. And every time I call or I get a contract and people start inquiring about this particular property, it just never seems to be the same story twice. So please correct me, I'm wrong. I'm trying to educate myself. I have been to the Ocoee website. I have researched City Center of West Orange. I am trying like crazy to try to figure out, what can we do with this property? And it's, oh, well, you can't do this, you can do that. And then all of a sudden the next contract comes in. So my customers or potential buyers for this property are scared to death. They're like, I don't know, we can't do this because we don't know if we can do what we want to do with it. So I'm here because I'm more or less doing a cannonball in the pool, and I'm hoping to splash somebody who can get me the correct answers and somebody who will put it in writing on what we can and cannot do with this parcel, hands down. So, I do have, the printouts of the property next door, because the other thing that I was gonna say is maybe the city of Ocoee should purchase the property and expand their cemetery. So, I'm just trying to, I'm trying to do my due diligence and my best job for my sellers. And Mr. Doss, who has been part of a staple since the 70s, has been a part of your community. He's a disabled retired vet. Thank you for your service. And he just lost his wife over Christmas. I just want to get him moved in with his daughter, but we need to sell this property in order to get that family to move on. So here I am. So I'm looking to see if somebody can direct me, because I've dug through sites before. No offense, City of Ocoee, you really got some tough ones for me to try to figure out what I can do with this parcel and where is it set in stone that we can do the certain things. So I don't know if I'm asking this at the right time, but even like the road Richmond, is that a identified road as the original that went to the city cemetery? Because that's where the gate was. Was that the original road?
Look at you, Joel.
It is good that we're here and we're hearing this, but specifically, we would need to really sit down and meet with you and bring in some of the planners. And in fact, Keel is zoning manager as well as the city planner, and I'd be glad to give you my card. Because
and absolutely, please, because I have contacted and left a message with Assistant City Manager Craig Shadricks. And then also too, I have spoken with Mike, and again, I'm getting conflicting reports. It's an access, it's not.
Well, we'll work with you.
Okay.
The zoning manager's here, and I'm deputy director of government services, so I'm going to get your information, we'll give you my card, and we'll see what we can do to help.
I don't want to lose the next sales contract I have.
totally understand.
I don't list properties, I sell properties.
I feel your pain. I'm sitting here looking at front setbacks, and I'm getting 3 different numbers through the city webpage.
So, because I really, honestly, I felt so stupid because it's like I've been in real estate for, 13 years, and I'm like, oh man, I am just struggling with this property. So I'm here to educate myself. So I appreciate, and really look forward to sitting down with y'all.
We're glad to do so.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? I'm going to assume, since that was our only member of the constituency here, that we will close the public hearing and bring it back up to the dais. Any additional questions or comments, or hearing none? At this point, I think we are ready. We only need, again, one motion on this one. So can I have a motion to approve or to recommend approval of the revisions of the Land Development Code relating to the downtown and 429 overlays?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the amendment to the Ocoee Land Development Code, implementing zoning criteria for the downtown overlay and the State Road 429 overlay district.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Member Wunderlich, a second by Vice Chair Williams. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you. And let's see, our next piece here is projects in the June calendar, and Ginger, I guess that's you again, so we'll turn it back over to Ginger Corliss for the project's updates and status.
Thank you, Chair Keller. Each of you in your packet had a copy of the June, basically our project, our new development update, so to speak. With this, as well as the calendar that's already in there, we did not have anything that was new that we wanted to point out other than that. But if you have any questions on the information contained within the update as well as on the calendar, I'd be glad to see if we can address them. If we can, we'll get an answer and get that back to you.
How's Four Tacos Loco are doing? I see it's ready for construction. It's always ready for construction.
There's still discussions going regarding Four Tacos, so that's something that I cannot speak to on this one because I don't have a clarification on that. But we'll be hopefully hearing an update very soon.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments there? Thank you very much. I guess what we're looking for now is a motion to adjourn, so we can go out and get wet.
So move.
All right, have a motion?
I'll second it.
There's a second. All right, so I have a motion by Vice Chair Williams, second by Member Mellon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you all, and we will see you, I don't know, do we have a July meeting? Yeah, okay. I know they were talking about 1 month being off, and I just couldn't remember if it was July or
Mike was
August.
away this week, and so initially this week was gonna be our off week, but then we had the school board item come
Okay.
through. So, Ginger and Keel covered the meeting for Mike. This was the one he had talked about.
Oh, okay. All right, so we'll see you all in July. Thank you very much.
Now I get to haul all my plans back. We'll get a card for them.
So now you know if they really want to change zoning altogether and all that. Lindsay,
Bite us in the butt.
yeah. One of the things that I would love to see